This is Tyler from Tactical Concealed Carry. A lot of you guys are asking questions about, do I really need a concealed weapons class? What do you think, Bob? It's kind of quiet. As an instructor who's trained over 17,000 people, I will tell you that I would absolutely recommend that you have a license and that you get training. The state of Florida and the state of South Carolina, along with a lot of other states, have passed something called constitutional carry. And constitutional carry means the United States Constitution says you can carry, so do you really need to even have a license? Do you need permission from the government to exercise a constitutionally enabled right? And I'm going to tell you some reasons why you should. Number one, you can carry in more states because of the rule of reciprocity. The awesome thing about reciprocity is it allows you to carry in states that you don't reside in. I'll give you an example. We're in Florida, which is a hurricane state. We get a hurricane that's coming straight for the state. I might want to go to North Carolina to weather out the storm so I have less of a chance of a direct hit. If I'm at a creepy gas station at night in North Carolina and I have my firearm on me and I don't have a license because I'm constitutionally carrying, one, I'm committing a felony because North Carolina doesn't have constitutional carry. So if I have a license and I'm carrying it, it's no problem. And my license could be from any other state that North Carolina honors. So reciprocity gives you the ability to carry in more states. That's really awesome. And it gives you the ability to do that with confidence that you're not going to go to jail. If you carried, say, in North Carolina without a license, it is a felony. So number one reason I would say you get to travel in more states. It'd be awesome if we were able to carry our gun in every state just because we have that right under the Constitution, but that's not the way a lot of states see it. So I highly recommend it having that license because of the law of reciprocity. The number two reason you want to have that license is because you get credibility with police. If a police officer pulls you over, they always ask you the famous two questions: do you have any drugs or weapons on you? My favorite way to answer that is, I left my crack cocaine at home, but I do have a firearm on me. Just kidding, don't do that. So if you have a firearm on you, I always like to say, here's my license from the state of Florida. I'm a licensed concealed carrier in the state. Here's my driver's license. Here's my concealed license. And yes, I do have a firearm on me. It's wherever. They're going to want to know where that firearm is. They may ask you to let them see it, or they may ask you to let them put it on the hood of the car or the roof of the car while they do the stop. They do have a right to do that for officer safety, but they usually tend to be a lot more cordial with people who are licensed because they know instantly with no question that you are at least trained in some capacity and that you have had a background check. Plus, officers are a little bit concerned about your knowledge of firearms, and this is a training gun, but you know, if they're like, yeah, I have a gun, and you point it at their face on accident, that makes them nervous. So when an officer hears that you've been through some minimal training, you have a license, they feel more comfortable conducting that stop. And the number three reason that you want to have a concealed weapons license is that you get to carry the gun anywhere you want on your person or in your car in most states. So some states have a rule called securely encased. Florida is one of those states where you have to have the gun in certain conditions, such as in a zippered pouch, in a locking container, in the center console, in the glove box. And if you don't have it properly encased, you can fall into hot water and possibly even go to jail. So it is best if you have a concealed license because you have a lot more leeway when it comes to that, because you can wear it on your body, so obviously you can have it anywhere you want in your car. So that is a rule called securely encased in the state of Florida, but many other states have laws similar to that. By the way, just a bonus tip, there are a handful of states that require you to tell them you have a firearm immediately, and if you don't, you will go to jail or you could get a fine. So going to jail or getting a fine, I don't like any of those options. So if I'm out of state, a typical habit that I have, if I do get pulled over, I will give them my driver's license, I will give them my concealed weapons license when I'm out of state, typically right off the bat, because if the state requires it and you don't, you can fall into hot water with either being arrested or be fined. So it's just good to have. I have a self-defense insurance product called Right to Bear, and that helps me out too because it tells me what states do what. I'm going to put a link in the description below. Starts out at $13, maxes out at about $25 a month, but we do have a discounted link. It's the promo code TCC. If you check out Right to Bear, just type in TCC and that's going to help you out, save some money, and it helps fund the channel. But I love that product because I can contact my Right to Bear attorney, tell them what states I'm traveling traveling through, and they can actually send me an email that tells me all the pros and cons of traveling with that firearm. So that's just a tip. We always say ignorance of the law is absolutely no excuse. So make sure that you do abide by the laws in the state. Again, having legal insurance where you can contact an attorney or look at reports and information is absolutely essential. Number 4, it eliminates the felony risk. Raise your hand if you want a felony. I don't see any hands raised. You don't want a felony because then you lose your gun rights forever. You guys don't seem excited about that. So a lot of people don't realize that under a federal law, 18 USC 922 Q2A is a section of the federal law code, and it basically says that if you carry a firearm within 1,000 feet of a school zone, you are committing a felony under the Gun-Free School Zones Act. What happens when you get a felony? You can't have a firearm for the rest of your life. Not good. Don't do that one. In other words, they don't want your loaded firearm anywhere near a school zone. But if you have a license, for example, in the state of Florida, that goes away. I'll give you an example. Let's just say you're driving through a school zone and a road rager runs you off the road, you hit a tree, your car's disabled, they're mad at you and they charge you with a knife, and you pull your gun and defend yourself. Police show up. Let's say that guy's a notorious drug dealer with a ton of drugs in his trunk, and an FBI agent gets involved to inspect the drugs, and they find out you shot him in front of a school zone and you don't have a license. That perfect storm happening could land you in a lot of hot water. They could charge you with a felony under the Gun-Free School Zones Act. 18 USC 922 Q2A. Be aware of that. It could affect your rights, and if you are caught near a school zone, you could be in hot water. How many of you have kids in public school? You take your kid to school and you forgot that you didn't take your firearm off, and the resource officer or an officer pulls you over and they see a gun, or they're aware that you have a gun, or they say, do you have any guns in your vehicle? You definitely don't want to lie, and you say, yes, I do. If you don't have a concealed weapons license, it could be a felony, but if you do have one, it would likely be a misdemeanor depending on the state that you're in. So it can lessen that amount of crime. And for those that are in South Carolina, I just wanted to let you know, if you're constitutionally carrying, and you can research this yourself, if you're constitutionally carrying and you do shoot a bad guy with your firearm and they find you to be at fault, they can give you way more jail time if you don't have a license than they can if you do. You can read the statute. It's absolutely crazy, but you can get a lot more jail time if you do not have a license than you can if you do. So if you're in South Carolina, definitely get a license, because that little loophole could really land you in a bad spot with a lot of jail time versus way less jail time if you have a license. Another one is the 3-day wait. If you want to purchase a firearm, how many of you guys like to wait forever to get your firearm? If you buy a firearm from me in the state of Florida on Monday, I cannot give you the firearm until Friday. There has to be 3 business days in between the day you pay and the day you pick up. And that's kind of a pain. You have to go back, and it's kind of inconvenient. We're all busy. I don't want to have to do that. I want to be able to take my firearm. Or it could be COVID 2.0. Somebody's trying to steal your toilet paper. They're breaking in your house. You buy a firearm to protect yourself, but you can't pick it up until Friday. If you buy it on Monday, somebody could get your toilet paper in that case. There have actually been ladies who had a stalker who decided to get some training and get a firearm, and they purchased the firearm on a Monday but could not pick it up till Friday. This has happened right here in the state of Florida, and the stalker or whoever it was that wanted to do them harm, they actually took their life in that waiting time. You can Google that. People have lost their lives in waiting time. So just be aware of that. You have quicker access to your firearm if you're licensed, and that's because you're more highly vetted, because that state might have done a background check on you, and so that's important. Number 6 is the absolute biggest reason: credibility with a jury. And I'm going to make a point by saying, how many of you have heard of a police officer who made a mistake in the line of duty? They have a really tough job. They're making split-second life or death decisions, and they accidentally shoot the wrong person, or a stray round hits an innocent child. What's the court going to hear? They're going to hear that the reason that happened was he had a lack of training. He did not have sufficient training. I always ask my live classes, and they fill it in. They always say lack of sufficient training. You got to understand, the prosecution is not happy about that, and they're going to go after that officer for a lack of training. And many departments might just throw them under the bus if they felt like they were negligent. They're going to say, yeah, he was negligent, he made a mistake. But it's always going to come back to that lack of training. So what makes you think as a civilian that you get a free pass and the officer gets held to a higher standard? You're going to be held to that standard as well. You should have had training. There was a guy in Tampa who actually shot someone who pushed him down, but they were backing up somebody. He was a military veteran. He had experience. He bypassed the concealed weapons class with a DD-214, and he figured he didn't have to take one because he had military experience. So long story short, he winds up in court and the prosecution is going after him for a lack of training. Probably the reason you made that mistake was because you didn't know what you were doing, and you didn't know what you were doing because you didn't have training. And so he got 20 years in jail. And I tell people it's just not worth it. Get training. Save your certificate from training. Show that certificate. Give that to your defense counsel. Any additional training, I literally keep receipts and records of all the training that I do because I want to show that jury I am doing my best to be within the confines of the law, and I'm doing my best to be a safe and responsible gun owner. The better I'm going to look to that jury, and the better I'm going to look. You have to ask yourself, if you're on the jury and somebody says, I didn't take any training because I didn't need to, how well will that go with you? Are you going to just give them a free pass because they just didn't feel like doing training? So I recommend that you get training for that reason, because it gives you credibility to the jury and it shows that you're responsible and you're trying to be the safest, most competent self-defender that you possibly can, and protect and preserve the lives of those around you as well as your own. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Tyler. I'm the chief instructor at Tactical Concealed Carry. We're in 2 locations, South Carolina, Bluffton, Buford, and then we're in Jacksonville, Florida. Come look us up if you're ever in town. We'd love to meet you. Please like and subscribe this channel. Obviously, firearms are difficult when it comes to the algorithm to really populate the video as much. It will definitely help YouTube know that this is content that people like, helps everybody be safe and responsible. And that's really our mission as a channel, is helping you to become a safe and responsible gun owner.